So how are you doing?
Good, good. Just, like everybody else, trying to figure out what's going on, what we're doing in this world. How are you?
Wonderful. I'm good, thank you. I'm so glad you're able to be here for the Comic Con. So would you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and what you like to do?
Well, right now, I'm spending lots of time with my family and obviously in this quarantine state, doing home renovations, that kind of thing. It's not
Awesome.
really my thing, but I'm starting to pick it up and it's taken me a lot longer than expected, but I'm getting through it.
Wonderful. So I mostly know you from the work you did in Stargate.
Okay.
Would you talk a little bit about that? Would you like to?
Stargate, sure. I mean, Stargate was a huge part of my career, especially what it was, I guess, we're going back 20 years now. I started out doing stunt work on it, even did some background work, I think, on the first couple episodes. And then I was a stunt guy as well. So then I started doing some stunt work on it. And eventually, I remember when I started acting and I got a gig on it. I remember Michael Greenberg, our producer, was, I guess him and Amanda Tapping, if I remember the story correctly, had seen me in a play and they didn't know I was an actor. So it was kind of one of those things where they're like, well, why didn't you tell us, that you're an actor? I said, well, I am, but, I didn't know what to do or how to go about it. And they knew me as a stunt guy. So it was really an interesting thing to cross over. And then they kept, with Joe Malazzi, and he was one of my fans, another producer writer on the show, and luckily he wrote some other things for me, and I was able to play some more characters on the show.
Yeah, it was really cool. Were you in all three series? If I remember right, you were in
Yes.
SGA and SGU.
Yeah, I started obviously with SG1, and I played Colonel Chernovshev one episode, and then I did Oadi Ventrell.
Yes, that
Yeah.
was cool.
And Peter DeLuise, who was the director of that episode and also a producer, was really instrumental. He had seen me in a play as well and was like, "This is where you should be focusing." So it was nice to have that feedback because at the time I'm thinking, well, should I just stick to stunts or should I? I loved acting, but I wasn't sure if it was going to pan out for me, and it did. So
That's really cool. So what made you decide to become an actor?
I always wanted to. Except I didn't know how to go about it. So for lack of a better answer, I really didn't know what to do, but I loved movies. I've always been into movies. I always go back to Mad Max. I remember seeing Mad Max, the original.
Oh, cool.
And I just thought, Mel Gibson, watching him, and I just thought, wow, this alternate world, this post-apocalyptic world is so cool. And from that point on, I think I got the bug. And I was, I obviously went to school and I was going towards my pursuit of playing professional football. So that was my number one thing. And I was fortunate enough to eventually get there. But after that, after my career was cut short with some injuries, I decided to focus on acting and stunt work. And it's sort of worked out. So.
That's awesome. So what are some of your favorite memories of different things you've been on?
Oh my gosh. It's a great question. Well, right now, I just finished doing a show called Power, which
Oh,
is Stars Network. And it stars Omari Hardwick and Joe Sikora and 50 Cent. And I was a series regular this past season. I came on in season 4. So that was one of my favorite things just recently because it was something that built on top of each other. And then I became a series regular. So, and I love the character that I got to play. But I mean, the Stargate franchises are obviously really close to me. Everything from SG1 to Atlantis, when I played Keurig in Atlantis, and I did Stargate Universes, Borrow. And that was ultimately the cast. Everybody is one of my favorite shows, if not the favorite,
yeah.
And I mean, I've done some other things. I've done quite a few things. I think the movie 300 was great as far as being part of a team where we all ate the same, we were trained the same, we all had rehearsals at the same time. It was pretty amazing and pretty elaborate, and we did that for like 4 months. And so obviously we were in great shape, and it was something that was really a challenge to get to, right? It was very hard on us, but when I look back, we had some great times too. And at the beginning, shooting a show like 300, a movie like 300, you don't know what it's going to look like. So we eventually were like, well, I hope this turns out, because all blue screens all over and, sand, and that was it. And, but it turned out, obviously, it was a huge hit. So we were lucky to be part of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, like, you also do theater. I didn't know you did that. What's some of your favorite things about being in theater?
Well, the best way, I guess, for me to explain it, theater, the feeling that I get is it's that immediate gratification when you're on stage and you're delivering and you're into it with your scene partner, and your characters are really hitting it off, and you could hear a pin drop. And there's something about the feeling that you get from the audience that you can't get anywhere else. And that's what I love about theater. Just being present and being alive right in the moment is great. And scary too, right? Like I still, I haven't done theater in some years right now. I guess 2.5 years, 3 years now. And I miss that. I miss that immediate gratification and the feeling you get and the energy you get from the audience.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So, do you like what's your favorite thing versus theater versus being on television? Like, do you have things you like better, or are they just different?
I think they're just different. I love all aspects of what we do, especially like even film and television. Like I said, the immediate response that you get in theater is fantastic, and the adrenaline rush that you get from that is great. But television, I love the pacing of a TV show. I love how we get going and how we create things every day, and we're moving along. And then you've got a feature film where you can take the time. It seems like with feature films, you really take the time to get the scenes done properly. And that's another aspect which is great, because you can really, you can do 30 takes and there's no problem, right? And that's what's great about doing a feature. And then you have all these big wide shots, these beautiful shots with these, sweeping vistas and such. So that's what I love about doing features as well. But man, I just love acting. So whatever form it's in, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah. What's it like being a stunt person? What's that like?
It hurts. Yeah, it can hurt sometimes. Stunt wise, I started acting and doing stunt work at the same time, but my stunt career sort of took off right away. And it was, I loved it. The adrenaline you get from performing some action scenes and doing a fight scene per se, or, I've done everything from jumping out of a building to being set on fire to being hit by a car to, what else, jumping in the ocean to being, there's all kinds of different things that I've done, but it's a young man's game is the way I like to put it. It's like playing a pro sport. That's why guys aren't 50 years old playing a professional sport, right? Because your body just can't handle that constant abuse. And it's just a pounding. And look, it's not about being a daredevil. It's about, these high risk events that you do, these stunts that you do. They're calculated risks. You do go over the security protocol, the safety protocol, you go through everything. But at the end of the day, things happen. It's not a perfect science. So sometimes you get hit a little, off balance, and then you fall harder. And sometimes you just have to fall. You're in a crowd scene and people are running you over, and that's what you have to do. That's your job. It's sometimes you're like, why am I doing this? This hurt.
So the different characters you played in Stargate, do you have a favorite one or?
Man, I love them. They sort of all evolved in a weird way. They sort of all became almost one character. You could put them together. Like with Oadi Ventrell, he was part of the Lucian Alliance, and he was great. He was this arrogant guy that was just trying to take over the world essentially. And then with Kirik, on Stargate Atlantis, I loved his character the most. It most reminded me, I guess, like of say Mad Max, the Mad Max character, Mel
Yeah,
Gibson.
he was a really cool character.
And then playing Varro was great because it's sort of the journey that Varro had was coming on as Aleutian Alliance, but I guess I remember Joe Malachi saying he's a killer with a heart, and that was an interesting dichotomy, right? Interesting way to play that. This guy's a tough guy, a killer, and then but he's loving and he cares about people. So it was interesting to try and create that, and so that was yeah, man, that's a tough question. I think at the end of the day, the Kira character, I would have loved to elaborate more on the Kira character.
Yeah, I always wish that they'd had him come back somehow.
Well, he was supposed to.
Oh, he was.
Yeah, there was talk that he, well, unofficially, I guess he was supposed to, but then the show got canceled,
Oh man.
which I think is why I ended up on Stargate Universe. Is we had talked and they didn't think I could do Universe because of my character as Keurig, but then after towards the end of the first season, they called me in and discussed playing Varro, and I thought, yeah, it was a great opportunity. So of course I'll jump on board working with those guys.
That's awesome. So, what would you have advice for people that would be wanting to start out in the acting industry? What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, just follow your heart, right? If people are always going to tell you can't do it,
Yeah.
acting, they're going to tell you acting's a crazy gig. You can't do it. There's no way you're going to make any money. And I'll agree, it's a tough thing to do. It's a tough way to make a life and a career. But if it's something that you can't live without, if that makes any sense, something that you have to do, that you have to do scenes, you have to do plays, you have to do whatever you do as far as acting goes. If it's something that you can't live without, then stick to it, and don't let anybody dissuade you and say that you can't do it. I believe it has to be a passion, because it's tough. You get a lot of rejection, and that's the hardest part about it. And even after over 20 years of doing this, I still, when I get rejected, sometimes every once in a while it stings a little, but then you get over it, right? You get used to compartmentalizing it and putting it aside, and then you move forward. So study is the next thing. Make sure you study, read plays, read everything, every acting book that you can think of. That's how I learned. For me, that is what worked for me, was just learning, reading a bunch of books, taking different classes, different courses from people, studying, doing scene study. And yeah, I think that helps. I think I can only tell you what worked for me, right? Because acting's such a weird thing in the sense that people come from all walks of life into acting. Some people are theater majors. Some people are just off the street, walked in one day for an audition and got discovered, right? So, but for me, is a lot of studying, a lot of scene study, a lot of reading books on acting.
That's awesome. Well, just thank you so much for being here. It really means a lot that you're able to come, and just thank you so much.
Oh, no, thanks for having me. This was fun. It was great talking to you.
It was wonderful talking to you. Do you have anything you'd like to say to the viewers who are watching?
No, hey, let's remember to stay home, stay safe, and we'll all get through this together. It's really important. I think we can do it, but I think in a couple months we'll be back on track and things will be okay again.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Bye.